Here's Denise. I left mine in the car too. Someone's coming.
Okay, now on. Thank you. So welcome everyone to the Board Accountability Committee meeting for March 25th. Really, really happy to have those who are here with us in person and those who are joining us virtually and those who will enjoy this experience later on when they watch the recording. We have a full agenda, so if you've looked at the agenda and you see all the items that are listed, Mrs. Taylor and I are folks that want to see a lot of stuff and we want to be ambitious. We want to try to get it done, and we understand that we may not. So those items that we did not cover in today's meeting, we'll move to our next meeting. But we're going to be talking about how we're measuring ourselves. We're going to get an overview of that and see a demonstration of how we're looking at our self-assessments. So this is one of my favorite meetings for the Accountability Committee because it's when we retune how we assess what we're doing over time. So I welcome you to participating in that process. I think Mrs. Taylor, Dr. Mann, your team is Rylander for what you've done to this point to get us to where we're able to review this today. Dr. Watts, welcome. We're glad to see you. Okay.
Words of Mark Twain, reports of my death are highly exaggerated.
We are glad to have our board president here and well and in a jovial spirit. So I am going to skip the approval of the agenda and the approval of the minutes because we do not yet have a quorum present. We have regrets from Mr. Rhodes. I'm not certain if we will be joined by our other Well, wait a minute. Nope, now we do have a quorum. I'm sorry. So I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second by Ms. Campbell, thank you. Okay, are there any modifications needed to the agenda? Okay, all in favor of approving the agenda as printed signify by saying aye or raising your hand. Okay, thank you. It passes. Approval of the minutes from November 12th. Did everyone have an opportunity to review the minutes? To receive the minutes? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes from November 12th. Okay, it's been properly moved and second. Any corrections needed? Okay, hearing none, all in favor of approving the minutes from November 12th signify by saying aye or raising your hand. Okay, opposed and abstentions? Okay, great, it passes, thank you. So now, we will receive a presentation on the district and school profiles from Ms. Taylor and Ms. Rylander.
I will start while we're waiting for the PowerPoint to be displayed. Good afternoon. I am excited to reintroduce or introduce to you our district and school profiles, and they really represent the next step in telling our story. The profiles are reimagined or evolved versions of what we are familiar with as our Chevron reports, so captures the same type of data. Fundamentally, it's the same thing, is arranged and behaves just a bit different, and so we'll take some time to walk through that this afternoon. I want you to know that this iteration offers, similar to the Chevron reports, a very comprehensive, transparent, and user-friendly view of both school and district progress. Before, however, we get into the actual scope of what the profiles look like and how they're arranged, I do want to ground us in, of course, our strategic plan. Have to do that. The profiles are tools that play a critical role in helping us monitor progress and maintain accountability around our KPIs that we've outlined in our strategic plan. By aligning the data and using the profiles, we look at our strategic priorities, and it really better positions us to track and monitor what's working and where we might need to give additional attention or make adjustments.
Ms. Taylor, may I also offer something?
Absolutely.
There? So that is how we have evolved our use of this instrument, and it's really powerful. The other thing, I just want to go back kind of the history of this instrument. The original idea was to have a one-page sheet where a parent could pull and understand what a school was like. Not pulling it from some commercially driven real estate engine, not pulling it from reputation or something they'd heard from the community from somebody who had good experiences or bad experiences, but something that was based on us really reporting what the vision and the dynamics at that school were. And so it's still that thing that families moving into the district can pull what your team has generated and say, okay, what is this school like? And what are their strengths and what areas are they emerging in?
Absolutely. They will be able to, and to your point, they'll be able to pull it not from some Google search, but they'll be able to pull it directly from our website, and we're generating it. Okay? And I think that's a perfect segue, Dr. Hoskins Brown, into a little bit about the purpose. And again, it's very akin to what we know from the Chevron reports, but the purpose is threefold. First, to provide a complete and dynamic view of school performance for each school as well as the district. Then second, to promote greater transparency both internally as well as externally. And finally, to support continuous school and district improvement by making data not only accessible but also easy to interpret. We want folks to be able to look at the data and really just understand what it says or means about the school and do it in a way that's simple and user-friendly. At the core, the profiles offer a centralized snapshot of key indicators, including school performance, demographics, as well as areas or opportunities for growth. Let's talk a little bit, and again, I'm going to be very top line, highlight, and Christy's going to get into the nuts and bolts, but want to talk a little bit about some of the key features. There are a few features that I'd like to highlight, and first I want to talk about the fact that you can not only see a district profile, but you can also look at schools, and you also have the ability to toggle back and forth, so you can decide if you want to look at the district as a whole or if you want to look at a specific school, and it gives you the ability to explore performance both ways. Also, Chrissy will walk you through this, but we have something that are called tool tips. Because thinking of someone who may be external, there may be some data, but they do not understand what that data represents, what it means, how it's being measured. And so we've included the tool tips, and we are familiar with this from other websites where you hover over certain things, and it really gives you a quick snapshot of what that particular metric is representing. Also, it's both dynamic and comprehensive. Though it's updated annually, because there is a little bit of dynamic nature in it, it allows you to really experience the data in a way that's current and fresh. So it's not static, but it is dynamic. And so you can switch years, you can switch schools, you can move things around to look at data different ways. The other piece, and I've mentioned this before, but I want to underscore, is because it will be available on our website, it's both accessible and user-friendly. The profiles will be available to families and communities that want to community members that want to access them. And then finally, the design for me, it's very intuitive, and the navigation is very easy to use. So when you get on, you don't need a manual. It's not going to take you 3 hours to figure out what to do. You can get on and immediately be able to interact with the data. Before we have the demonstration, and I appreciate you, Dr. Hoskins-Brown, highlighting this, but I would like to underscore or ditto what you've already shared earlier around acknowledging the work of the team. Ms. Rylander has been beyond a gem in really taking this and taking something that was solid that we already had and figuring out how we can reimagine it and make it better. And I want to thank her for both her professionalism, her technical expertise, and her patience in bringing this to fruition. But before Christy comes forward to walk you through the nuts and bolts, are there any questions that you have for me as it relates to the overall structure and concept with the school and district profiles? Y'all ready for the main event? Oh.
This is incredible, by the way. So first, good job. This is awesome. Quick question. You said it's not static, but it's updated yearly. So is stuff populating in throughout the year, or?
It is not static in the sense of you can change years, you can look at different indicators, but the data isn't live because it's a snapshot of what has happened for the past year.
Gotcha.
Got it?
Thank you. That's perfect.
If I could just add to that, but while you transition, so that is what has made this instrument difficult, is that it takes a lot of staff time to pull all the annual data and then also have leadership from the site report on kind of stories behind the numbers, pulling the discipline data, pulling all that information into one report. And so the challenge was you couldn't get a report for every single school every year because it was so labor intensive. And when we distilled down to something that was much more like an infographic, I found it far less satisfying from the data side. But it became more user-friendly, but then had less information. And that's really what this team has done now, is really matured it into something that is, I think, easier and smarter for them to prepare, that gives information for external users, but also information for internal users like our leadership.
Absolutely. All right, I'll hand it over to Christy.
Thank you so much, everyone. I am pretty excited. I know, right? And I appreciate all your kind words so far. And then let's see what we can take a closer look at. And I'm laughing, I swear. We tested this before the meeting, y'all. Now I'm going to have like 5 versions of it. All right. So when you first navigate to the profile, it is going to alert you immediately right there at the top what year you're looking at. As Ms. Taylor mentioned, we will be adding additional years of data as the annual data become available. Everything in here is based on data that we either report to the Georgia Department of Education or they report back out to us. And so that is why it is that annual snapshot. As we mentioned earlier in the features, we do have those tooltips. So basically anywhere you see a round icon is something that you can hover over and get more information. And so for instance, at the very top of the page, we're specifying that this data are limited to the year shown. We are suppressing certain data when the student counts fall below 15 in order to make sure that we are protecting student privacy. And then it has the directives there that the question marks will provide more information in each area. Moving down, over here at the top left, we have our slicers, which is what allows us to view the data by school type or school. We'll come back to that shortly. Again, the default view is the district data. Moving to the right, we have a map of all of our school locations. You can hover over any of the dots and a tooltip will pop up and tell you which school you're looking at. It pulls in the FTE count and the address. Next, we have our schools identified for additional support, and those are our federally identified schools, so our TSI, our CSI schools. That is an area where there's a lot of explanatory information really necessary to understand what's going on with those designations. And so in this case, your tooltip will actually take you to a whole nother page where you can get in-depth detail about the TSI and the CSI identification process. It includes links that you can click on to get the maps or the infographics from Georgia Department of Education as to how the process works. From any of those type of pages, we can navigate right back to the profile data. Moving on, we have our enrollment data. We actually have two different enrollment figures here. And the reason for that is because so much of our information later in the report comes from student record, which looks at students enrolled at any time during the year. But typically when we talk about enrollment, we're talking about our FTE enrollment. And so we wanted to provide both of those figures basically because we didn't want the numbers down here in the demographics to not add up to the number that you saw at the top. We wanted to be very transparent about how all these numbers are kind of flowing into one another. Again, this is all explained via the tooltips. We have the FTE count by grade level. Moving down into the middle section, we have information about our number of personnel. So that's our pre-K through 12 teachers. We're also reporting on the average years of experience and the percentage who have an advanced degree. Following that, we have our student demographic information. One thing I want to point out is here in the race ethnicity, in addition to the tooltip that explains what our reporting sources are and what we're looking at, you can also hover over the legend to see, over the axis to see the legend of what the category abbreviations are. We get lots of questions about this ELM that's explained in the tooltip. And so that's just a special categorization for when a student was formerly an English learner and they have exited within the past 4 years. We include that because they do go into our English learner subgroup for accountability purposes. And then finally, on the bottom row is where you see we have our performance data. And we were really mainly focusing on things that are sort of our continuous improvement, key performance outcomes. So we're starting with reading on grade level. We've pulled out the third grade reading on grade level rate, but we're also reporting on the elementary, middle, and high school grade band data here. To the right of our reading on grade level, we have our Georgia Milestones Assessment System. We are reporting out on student performance by specific achievement level. And again, hovering over, so like in these areas where it's a little too small to display the data labels, you can hover over and still see that information. And then finally, on the bottom row is where you see we have our performance data. And we were really mainly focusing on things that are sort of our continuous improvement, key performance outcomes. So we're starting with reading on grade level. We've pulled out the third grade reading on grade level rate, but we're also reporting on the elementary, middle, and high school grade band data here. To the right of our reading on grade level, we have our Georgia Milestones Assessment System. We are reporting out on student performance by specific achievement level. And again, hovering over, so like in these areas where it's a little too small to display the data labels, you can hover over and still see that information. And then we also have, in addition to the performance in each achievement level, we have a summary of the students who are at the proficient or distinguished level, and we are providing year-over-year comparison data built into this section. Within the GMAS explanatory information, we did include some of the language that helps to distinguish our GMAS ELA from our reading on grade level. Since that is a question we get so very frequently, we wanted to make sure that that was covered in the explanatory information. One of the things that I think is kind of fun, you can see the default view is the ELA and math, but if I click the button for science and social studies, it will change the view over so I can see those subject areas as well. And I can swap back and forth between those. And then finally, we have our college and career ready performance index information. We are reporting here at the component level for each grade band. And so again, I'm looking at the district information, but if I decide that I'm curious as to what this might look like if I look at all K-8 schools in the district, I can come up and make that selection in my school type area. You'll notice it'll start filtering out and changing all of the data to reflect only those K-8 schools. I will draw your attention in the CCRPI section because that's something that doesn't get officially reported out by those type of school groupings. We do have a little warning there about the need to clear out that selection in order to see accurate district level grade band information there. And if I want to clear out my selections, I can just hover above the box, click the little eraser button for clear selections. And it's the same process to look at an individual school.
Go back to Ellis for a minute.
Sure.
All of the categories remain the same, all of the categories of information. You just get the specific data for that school in this.
Correct.
So will you talk a little bit later about the data that we decided not to include, or do you just want to entertain questions about that?
Well, I think I'll tell you what, let's talk about our next steps that may answer a few questions.
Okay.
And then we will go back to questions. So our next steps, on tomorrow, actually, we will be sharing these profiles with our school leadership to make sure that they're aware of that they're going live and that their families can access the profiles. And then as soon as we have given our leadership an opportunity to preview them, we will launch them on the district website. They will belong under the district section of the district public website. And then we are very much using these profiles kind of as a guidepost to finalize our district scoreboard, which is a tool, while this one is more for public facing, and again, to answer those very common questions that we tend to get from families and community, we are also building out a district scoreboard that's more for internal use, that's using data that will be feeding in on a daily basis in many cases. And that's going to be kind of designed to be our one-stop shop for our leadership to be able to look at that scoreboard and know where they are with regard to our strategic plan, KPIs, how are we tracking, how are we doing on a day-to-day basis. And so while we were certainly very purposeful and intentional in developing these district school profiles for the purpose that they are intended, it was also very much a learning exercise, right? And so we're taking what we learned with these and applying them to that slightly more complex application where we're feeding in data from all different types of sources on a much more frequent basis. And with that,
Thank you. I appreciate it. I do have questions, but are there other questions that we want to start with? Mr. Moss? and Mrs.
Actually,
Hall?
just more of a comment. This is amazing.
thank you.
Absolutely amazing. I'm so encouraged by this. You know, we talk a lot about transparency and letting the public know exactly where we stand, and that parents and community members would be able to go to our website and go to individual schools. And thank you that you're telling the truth. There are no fudged numbers here. This is all just the facts. But more importantly, we're explaining to parents what this means. Because if I'm a parent, I don't know what CCRPI. I didn't know what CCRPI was when I came on this board. Okay, you know, I don't know what and thank you for explaining, you know, the acronym soup that, you know, we have to, you know, muddle through all the time. So, great job. That's it for me. Yeah.
Thank you.
Ms. Hall, did you have a question?
I had to send my friend to get my glasses. I can't see a thing.
Okay, we'll come back
So
to you.
that's why I'm so quiet right now.
We'll come back to you. Okay.
I agree, this is fantastic, I was just sitting here. So on the district website, will it go under like where the welcome information is, like learn about the district, or do you know kind of yet where it's going to be?
So I believe that, like at the top where we have
The drop-downs?
families and
Yes.
all of those
Okay.
drop-down
It'll be one of those.
menus, it will
Okay.
be under the district
Okay,
listing there.
perfect. So
And I
it
believe
should
they're
be-
being, I apologize for interrupting. I believe they're being rearranged, and district will now become the first tab. And then when you select district, one of the drop-downs will be school profiles, and then you'll also have access to the strategic plan from there. So they'll sit in that same place.
Okay, perfect.
We're not rearranging the navigation, we're changing
What goes,
Does it
what
come
the
in the
drop down?
pull-down?
Yeah.
what used to say district is now gonna say departments, and we'll have what was community is now district, and that will have all the drop downs underneath it that we talked about. I still don't remember what the fourth one was, but we'll figure it out.
Okay.
We'll have all the school profiles there.
Okay, great. So when somebody clicks on school profiles, the window that you just showed is what will come up,
That's
correct?
correct.
Okay. Just a user, it's fantastic. Is there a way, and I know you're limited by the platform, but is there a way when you click on one of those, the tooltips, for it to open in a new window as opposed, and I'm sorry, y'all, I know this is really in the weeds, but just from a user experience and making sure that people can navigate it, is there a way for that to open in a new window, or are you limited to
I
having to
think,
go back?
I think we may be limited, but I'll look into it and be sure. Like I said,
Okay.
I learn something new about this platform every single day.
Yeah, no, I'm sure. And it's interesting, so at our Academic Excellence Committee meeting, we just had the literacy update and spent a lot of time talking about GMAS and the confusion around what comprises that score. And Ms. Goldman had some, like a pie chart that I thought was a really good graphic that you can quickly visually see how that is divided that might be helpful in that, because there's a lot of text there that you got to weed through, and it's kind of a quick snapshot, so it might be helpful to include something like that as part of the platform. And then I think for most people, it's probably pretty intuitive. For someone like my mom, it may not be. Are we going to have like a user guide that explains like what a tooltip is and how to reset? I know that's like really, but just thinking about trying to make sure that we're able to access our entire community.
No, we
Will
used to have one for the old ones. so-
Well, so will we have like a user guide for this?
We will have something to support that. I think there's some ways in which we can maybe leverage short videos or some other things to give folks a quick view on how to access it, but yes.
Okay, perfect. Well, it's great work. Thank you so much for all that's gone into this.
Okay, so it's my baby, so you know I'm going to be the harshest critic. I think it's wonderfully executed, and I think it creates a platform that is easily digested by the people who are looking for it. It's made something that is more user-friendly for us and informs our work. But, not but, and when parents use it, parents want to know the academic profile of the school. They want to know that, but they also want to know the school climate. And we've deleted a lot of that information. So we have the percentage of teachers at different levels of career advancement and degree level, but we're missing attendance data. We've taken away discipline data. We don't have information about the number of or the presence of business partners and community partners. And those were all parts of kind of page 2 of the chevron. So the first page of the chevron was, here's all the academic data. Then the bottom of it was, here's the personnel in the house, in the schoolhouse. Then on the back, there was a quadrant that was, here are the number of community partners, volunteers, that sort of thing, absences. Then there was some discipline data. And then there was a section where principals could give us more information. That was like 3 iterations ago. So my question is, a parent wants to know, what's the climate? What are their extracurriculars that are there? How many clubs? How many clubs and sports are offered? Maybe there's not a way to put that on there. And that's something that was not on the other chevron. So I just thought about that as we were sitting here. How many opportunities for enrichment are there? And, what's the attendance rate? We've really been amplifying that. What was our thinking about those types of data when we came upon this as a finalized version?
So,
I'll also add one other piece that was on the last Chevron report, because I used those to prepare for my interview here. It was also a piece around funding. Title I dollars versus other funding streams were a part of that, which I found to be very interesting. So I am curious about your question too.
Oh, okay, thank you.
so we sort of took the initial approach here of what are the things we get asked for, like, a lot. We get phone calls in the office and things like that. And I'm kind of going to go out on a limb here.
Go for it.
And say that, one of the really cool things about what we're doing with this project overall is, as Stacy said, it's dynamic. And I don't mean that just because of like, oh, okay, we could turn around and start feeding, a different data point every day in here. But I think we have kind of a bigger vision, right? And if we can think of this maybe as step 1, because ideally what I would like to see is that, okay, maybe I can click on, let's say I click on even the CCRPI box, right? And maybe I can see indicator level data, like flip to a new page seamlessly. They don't even know they're going to a new page in the report, right? And incorporating some of the school climate data. And so, we certainly, I think, have a bigger vision for what this could be. This is our, I think, initial stepping stone. For right now, we have kind of turned our attention and our focus and our priority on that internal dashboard that we were talking about. And again, I'm using that to learn more things that I can turn around and apply to our public-facing dashboard. But again, we have not forgotten those data points and how important they are. It's just sort of, we're not quite there
We're
yet. Evolving.
One of the
That's a
things
perfect
that I'm
word
just
for it.
thinking of out loud we could do is also include a link to the website, which to me should capture some things like business partners and
You mean the website for the
school
school?
website.
Sure.
Some do.
Well, we need to
And,
standardize
yeah.
that a little bit more too,
Yeah.
right? So that parents can see different, because to me, that does get a little bit more to the experience of
Yeah.
the school. So that could be another way we look at it.
Yeah, and that's an easy addition
Right.
to
Yeah.
make.
That would be helpful. I think, again, y'all have done an extraordinary job taking this information that we need and making it something that we can digest. And I remember we spent a lot of time talking about student growth and the way that we showed that it was a really good kind of, it was still a histogram. But, we had this graphic that let you know how much a student was achieving versus how much they were growing in what they knew. And I like how you have proficiency and, proficiency and distinguished achievement because that gives someone an idea of what the level of achievement and growth is at that school. So I think this is great, and I don't want my criticisms just because I'm just so close to it.
It's good pushes.
To be received poorly. So here's the example of how I think this may be used as a decision-making tool, and it's the lens that I'm using to provide this point of view. So imagine for some reason that is valid but not known, that a parent has to choose for an administrative placement. They're choosing another school, they have to do it quickly, and they need good information, and they're making a commitment to the school because they're providing transportation every day, like they're fully bought in on their students' enrollment. What can they use besides our annual data and what they hear from people at their church or their neighbors? You know, something that they could click on and say, okay, this might be a good fit. This is worthwhile, where it's not. And it could be the same as if they're choosing, do I want to apply to this charter school that I know they do this thing, or do I want to dig into what I know, this neighborhood school? I think that we have created a really terrific decision-making tool for families for all the decisions they're making, whether it's because they're moving here, they're moving across town, they're changing schools, or they're choosing programs. And so I'm going to be excited to see, I have to ask that question. So are we doing this for choice programs? Because that used to be something that we did as well. We compared schools, but we also had chevrons for programs. Is that down the line?
I would say that's further down the line.
Okay. And that was laborious, which is why it stopped.
Yeah, it is a lot.
We
That was
used
a
to
lot.
process the data for individual schools and then choice programs.
What would be in that? Like the number of students that applied? Like
All
what
the
would-
same data, just for the students enrolled in that program.
I got it.
Because if you're at Jenkins, you're in a program and a school.
I got it.
If you're at Savannah Arts, it's all the same. But if you're at a program within a school, it's different.
Got it.
Would it be helpful for school improvement plans to be linked into this somehow? I mean, as a parent, I can look at the data, but I would also be interested to know what the school is doing to address the data.
I always want more information, but I would say yes. What do others say? You have your glasses now, so you can.
Well, I'm fascinated with this. I was one who was very much wedded to our original Chevron reports back in the day. And I worried that we would lose some of the information that was very important to us as board members as we tried to make it a more public-facing document. But this looks really good, as that it will serve us and it will serve the public very well. I just wish I knew a parent who, I'll wait and see when some start to look at this and see what their reactions are. And especially because I have several parents who've called me about administrative placements for next year. I'd like to see, send them to this and then see what decisions they have, if they change their minds about where they think they want their children to go. So, but thank you, this is wonderful.
The school improvement plan, do you think those parents the parents that you are talking about right now, do you think that the school improvement plan would contribute significantly to their thought process, or would it be ancillary?
I know that's a lot of work, but it would be. It would, because all of this information, what I end up hearing is the culture of the school, are there fights every day, those things that we can't really, get on here. But that would be to show, okay, we're here, but this is where we're headed, or we were there and look where we are now. I think that would make a difference.
Yeah, but we did used to have suspensions.
Yeah, see
And
the
I don't know
suspensions.
what kind of discipline data that's that truth-telling.
Yeah.
That, I don't know what our thought process is around that. But I interrupted you before you.
So, as Ms. Jennings knows, I was harping about a new website like from day one when I got on the board, so I'm so glad we're at the point. And I know our schools are, have just recently transitioned to our platform. I agree 100% with Dr. Watts. I think we need to have some consistency in the information. I think different schools use the website in different ways. And I think, when you're in something and you're familiar with it and you know what but I always try to think about the website as the lens of someone who knows nothing about our district. What are they looking to find? We have it's almost like information overload because we have so much great information, but is it going to be located at the place where someone is expecting to find it? So again, I don't know if this is possible. And the reason I asked about what you saw when you first went on that district page, what is the frame, was thinking about how do we link it back to the school, because if there's a way to link it back to the school website and then also have the school website linked to this platform so you can get to it from multiple directions, I think that would be helpful. And I also agree 100% about, what are the things that make the school that it is from a culture standpoint? Like I'm sitting here looking at the website, we have the 8 high schools named for AP honor schools. We have 20 schools that just got recognized by Godot for math or reading or both leadership. Those are the types of things that I would love to, and I don't know how we do this, and I'm not trying to create more work, but those are the types of things that I think we need to celebrate on the individual school pages. Because right now, you have to go through that extra step of, oh, what are the 20 schools? And oh, is that the school I was looking at over here? Like, how can we celebrate those independent school successes on their actual site, especially for some of our schools that are that have historically struggled but are showing such great improvement and have received this recognition from the state? Because you may find that a parent might look just only at the academics and be like, oh, the academics aren't that great. But if they see, oh my gosh, they are making this tremendous improvement, then maybe they're more willing to take a second look at the school that they may not have. So that's a whole lot of fitting a lot of pieces together, I know, but I do agree that some standardization and cross-pollination of where you find the information could be really, really helpful. But again, not trying to go overboard, but hopefully this is helpful.
I think that's helpful, and it made me think of in NOAA Fisheries, we have an internal evaluation system. The performance evaluation system has something not quite as beautiful as this, but you have a pull-down menu that identifies the year, and then it will pull down your evaluation information for that period. And I'm thinking about this idea of linking and not creating these additional metrics, because I understand what additional work that means. This may also create more storage on our servers than we want to create, but hear me out, and you can shoot it down if you think it won't work, or y'all can shoot it down later and let us know at the next meeting. So you're asking for linkages to some information. You're talking about school improvement plans. Those are going to be specific to a year. Well, so will our key performance indicators. We have key performance indicators around some of the data that I'm saying, oh, I wish we could see that about a particular school. So if we have the key performance indicator report that we're going to talk about in a moment.
Right.
We have the different report types. They're going to be available as PDFs at some point. So you won't have them for this year, but next year when you go to Ellis, you ought to be able to have a place where you can click on the key performance indicator report for a type of data that you may be interested in that's not included in the dashboard. So rather than creating all these individual things that you got to maneuver in the dashboard, you can just have an area where there are some links to allied data that we're already collecting, just like school improvement plans.
Yep.
But the issue with that is that creates a toggle, just like where you have school type and school, just like where you have school type and what's the other pull down? School type and school itself. You'd have to have another one for year, and that's going to create a whole another set of layers of storage, and I don't know if that works. But I think y'all have heard us.
We understood and received. I think there are opportunities for us to cross-collaborate with colleagues in other departments, and then I think it's opportunity, Dr. Watts mentioned the push, not only the push, but also just informing what the next iteration looks like. And we'll take this in to our district leadership meeting when school site leaders get a chance to see it, and we'll synthesize both sets of feedback and come up with our path forward as it relates to what's next. But it was important to get it before you and have this conversation so that we can continue to refine it. So definitely received, and we appreciate it.
That's great, thank you. I'm excited about what the school leaders are gonna say, because they're gonna say, wait a minute, you're not giving me a chance to show this. Like, we're awesome at this, and we need to be able to show that. So you may have the same number of additions coming from them. So this has been a very exciting conversation for me. Is there anything else that we'd like to add to this
But I
before
think
we
that's the thing about school leaders, because I like mixed data. I like qualitative and quantitative to get a full picture. But about their desire to have things added or showcased, that to me is the interplay between the website, their website. They should be putting the stuff that they want to be celebrated on their website. And then if you have links to both, you can see both.
Right, they complement each other. That's kind of how I'm.
As two different,
Right.
two things. So I do hope we get some push from our school leaders, but I'm going to be there to push them to say, you already have a mechanism to share these things.
When you tell them that and they tell you that they need a webmaster,
Well, they
Because
have
they're
a
gonna- 'cause-
webmaster, but that person also does 8 other jobs.
Right.
Just like everybody else in the district
Right.
does 8 other jobs. So that is the rub,
Yeah.
when you have somebody who's doing 8 other things. I mean, it was it was a major move just to get everybody transitioned onto this new platform. So now we're talking about another
Layer,
iteration or evolution.
right.
yeah, I look forward to the resolution.
Yeah.
Ms. Campbell and then Ms. Hall. Oh, you're good? Okay, Ms. Hall.
Okay, two things. I'm very happy that you're going to be speaking with our school leaders tomorrow, because I'd really like you to listen to whatever their input is. I worry that some may feel this as a report card makes them look less than, and they need to understand that we want, as Mr. Moss said, we want the public to see exactly what we're dealing with. And this is what our schools look like. At the same time, if you're going to go into this instrument, look at the categories here. 28,000 students say economically disadvantaged. So when you look at my school, take that into consideration and don't try to compare in those kinds of ways, because it's going to always end up then with my school looking as though we, are not performing the way we should. Let me just put it there without looking at all of the other ramifications of it. So I'm sure leaders know that, but I do want us to emphasize that we understand the merit of this is that we are being truthful and honest, and this is what we're dealing with right now. And on a lesser note, I don't know if this is possible, but I get phone calls maybe from every district except maybe Stephanies. I don't think I get calls, but they don't know who their board members are. And I guess because I've been on here so long, I'll call Connie. But is it possible for us to just put, your school board member is that something?
School, that makes sense.
I would
That's a
think,
great idea.
that would make sense, so
Great
that,
idea.
I don't have to listen to a whole thing and then say, oh, you need to call Dr. Hoskins Brown. So I just think that would be good if we could do that. But again, this is amazing. It really is.
All right, I have lots of notes. Thank you all.
Thank you so much. We appreciate your effort and expertise.
Thank you, Christy.
So that was awesome. I'm so excited. We now have the presentation of our calendar of meeting dates. You have them before you: July 22nd, October 28th, January 27th, and April 28th of next year. This is aligned with our move some time ago to not meet monthly, but to meet strategically when we were preparing our accountability plan, and when data is available after the assessment cycle in the spring. Dr. Mayer, you're going to lead us through a little more of that, or did I just do it all?
You did a fantastic job. I just wanted to display the dates for all of you.
Thank you. So I know this came out as part of our packet. If there's some dates that already stand out as not working, please feel free to let us know. And if they don't, then we'll move forward with these. And if we have to make an adjustment, then we'll do that and publicize it appropriately in alignment with our sunshine laws. Okay, looks like we're good.
Wonderful. Then the next item,
Our KPO matrix.
yes. So as you all know, one of the primary responsibilities of the Board Accountability Committee is to provide accountability and transparency across the district by implementing and maintaining the district accountability system, which we fondly acronym as DAS. And you're well familiarized with our DAS reports. And these align with our Godot state accountability requirements as well as the district strategic plan. DAS also serves a critical feature in that it is the framework for the district's continuous improvement process. It provides stakeholders with information regarding our key performance outcomes, as well as allows us to monitor progress toward our KPIs, our key performance indicators, as aligned with our strategic priorities and performance objectives. So before you today is a revised key performance outcome reporting matrix. As you can see, Georgia Milestones is proposed as a regular board presentation in the month of September. CCRPI, our College and Career Ready Performance Index, our State Accountability Index, is proposed as an April regular board presentation. One thing I do want to note is that all regular board presentations, as well as the informal board presentations, do have an accompanying executive summary report that is presented along with those presentations. In January, we have a superintendent's note on our Swiss performance. So we are a strategic waiver system. Our charter school performance annual reports are forthcoming. They are scheduled for April and May. Those are informal board presentations in which the charter leaders present their annual reports, and we also present the annual performance report from our department. And last but not least is our internal audit summary report, which is presented to the audit committee in June.
Any comments or questions about the form in which we're going to receive this information over the next year?
This is great. This is really good.
We have an extraordinary team. We really, really do. You may recall that we get this summary in the DAS REMI each October, and often we're getting it and reviewing it so quickly, but they always give us the schedule, but they also are our team is really attentive to how they need to change the schedule to give us the best information or the best report at the right time of the year. I want to also point out what you said about the executive summary. For those who are watching us or who are in our audience or interested in specific bits of information, the executive summaries around our key performance indicators are really exceptional. You can watch the PowerPoint presentations and you hear the comments about what the data trends may be, but the executive summaries always do a trend sort of analysis where they point out, if you didn't see this figure, take a look. We're doing well here. If you didn't see this trend, you know, we're kind of plateauing out over the last 3 years. Those kinds of professional opinions from our analysts are the things that you see in the executive summary. And they're just invaluable when you're trying to look at how we've done at the end of a year. And they're often more detailed than the PowerPoint presentations can be in the course of one informal or regular board meeting. So y'all have done that extraordinarily well for as long as I've been on the board.
Thank you very much.
Questions, comments, concerns, additional praise?
Just one last
Okay.
thing. You wouldn't know the turmoil that is bubbling around us to hear us sitting here. We know this sounds very normal and very positive, but we have a whirlwind coming perhaps. And in terms of our schools that will be affected, I want us to just be calm, but on the same token, I want us to understand that we're not going to be left out of this turmoil. We will be a part of it, and just how this may affect our outcomes, our reporting, or everything, just that we are aware.
Thank you for acknowledging what a lot of people are going through. I know that there are teachers who are very uncomfortable, who are stressed about what's happening in the state of education in our nation. I am borrowing a term from somewhere else, and I think that it's appropriate. We will not be thermometers for what's happening in education. We will be a thermostat for our community. That is what we will do for our staff, for our families, for our students. We will do what we can to modulate those impacts. Would you like me to talk about my other job? If you want to talk about turmoil, we can talk about.
And I will add that while there's not a lot of outgoing information, we are monitoring what is happening at the national level and trying to anticipate what that means from us. But as I told Senator Warnock last week when I had the opportunity to meet and share with him, there is so much ambiguity that the ambiguity is actually, to me, scarier than what you hear coming down the pipe, right? It's just the not knowing, and we don't want to over-respond to something. You don't want to under-respond to something, but there has been no guidance or significant detail about what is changing. So that right now, we don't really know how to pivot or adjust or to communicate. So I'm saying that to say, yes, there is a whirlwind happening outside of us right now, both at the state and national level, by the way. We are watching all of it very closely, but because we don't have clear guidance, it's very difficult to respond to the unknown. So it's just difficult.
I think it's really important and valuable for folks to hear the superintendent say that, to say that you are aware of what is happening, that you are having conversations with decision makers to be able to process what is happening, and that you're strategizing around it. I know that what I've heard from different areas, whether it's education or marine science, one of the challenges that people are having with this, bless you, one of the challenges that people are having in this transition of the government is leadership that's not saying anything. Because some leadership is so concerned about analyzing a trend that might not be correct, they don't want to tell people something that they think is not the correct direction, so they say nothing, and that is much more distressful for people than for someone to say, I'm not sure, but wait a minute. Or, I'm not sure, I'm listening, I'm gonna get back with you when I've synthesized this. So I think it is very important for you to be able to say, I hear it, I'm thinking about it, I'm planning around it. You know, I don't have the level of specificity of an answer that you may want right now to feel better, but nobody does.
Yeah, I probably need to think of more ways to say that.
I think they would appreciate. I think they would appreciate it. I think they'll appreciate what you've said today, and they'll appreciate more. So we have our matrix. That's going to be our calendar of reports over the course of this year, and you know what that calendar is going to be. Our next meeting is going to be scheduled for July 22nd. Are there any other comments or concerns for the good of what we're doing? No? Ms. Taylor, we thought we were just gonna go run on and on and on. We're actually ahead of schedule, yeah. See, y'all should believe in us. We told y'all we could do all this in one agenda. Thank you again to your team this is terrific work, and we look forward to the next iteration. And with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Okay, and by unanimous consent? Awesome. Thank you, everybody. Have a terrific afternoon. Enjoy the sunshine.